It's Wednesday. Wow, what a super busy day. So firstly, I had to extend this session. Why do I look so big in the screen? I'm going to sit back a wee bit. So firstly, I had to extend the session by an hour because I have just gotten off a call with 200 odd people globally. Super cool, from New York to Hong Kong to the UK to the US. Running an event with my awesome collab team, the Train Your Thoughts team, and we ran a little bit late. So I had to make this event at 1:30 instead of 12:30. Then when I went on to the event, I realized that I'd set it up for 1:30 in the morning instead of the afternoon. So I don't know if anyone's going to join me, if anyone has found today's event. Otherwise, no problem. You can hop over onto my Facebook page or group or YouTube channel to watch the recording as always. So I have been notifying you guys about the Miserable to Marvelous course for weeks. And it's finally ready. I spent the last 10 days testing it and sent it out to a friend of mine, 2 friends of mine to test, and it crashed. It wasn't fucking working. I was like, Jesus. It is now fixed. It is live. It is ready. I will put the links everywhere so that you can get into that. And as a celebratory thank you to myself and to my partner, Jenny Porteous, of who we built the course together, I'm going to be running a whole bunch of competitions. So be sure to check that out, have a look at the links, and you can win a course for free as well as other awesome things. So today's topic is boundaries. What did I title it? When you lost them and how to get them back. So boundaries is a super, super difficult skill and practice for so many people, primarily because we kind of see enforcing our boundaries as conflict, speaking our truth, standing up for ourselves. And of course, all of those things will trigger our insecurities, our self-worth issues, our habits, the relationship dynamics, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that boundaries is connected into. So what happens is over time, kind of, when we're very young children, we have no problems establishing boundaries. Absolute truth and honesty. I'm talking about 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds. If we do something or say something or ask them to do something for us that they don't want to do, their immediate response is no. They have no problem with that. And over time, and as parents and as society, we systematically kind of beat it out of them. Sorry, that came out so wrong. No, we don't beat our children. What I mean is we snuff out their ability to establish and to respect their own boundaries, because we say things like, don't hurt other people's feelings, consider other people, etc., etc. And so over the course of our lives, and obviously there are many factors and we'll chat about them, we somehow came to the conclusion that we have to put others before ourselves. If we say no, we run the risk of hurting their feelings, insulting them, etc. And so over time, our practice of saying no diminishes. Now, the reason why I chose this topic for today is, as per usual, the energies are always the same and the universe works so in synchronicity. Quite a few of my clients, as well as my personal relationships, have had issues with boundaries. And I'd like to share one of these stories with you. So a client of mine mentioned that he absolutely loves reading, and as a de-stress, this is something he would like to do. So I said, well, great, why aren't you doing it? And he said, well, I haven't read a book in 30 years. Now, as somebody who loves reading, obviously, I was astounded, and I was like, 30 years, how can you go that long without reading a book? But more importantly, doing something that you love, that's for you, that de-stresses you, that gives you joy. And he was like, well, to be honest with you, my wife gets really upset when I read because she feels like she's not getting attention. So the minute he picks the book up, she comes over and either deliberately takes his attention away or does it in a subtle, manipulative way. Can I ask your help for something? Let me tell you the story that happened today, just constant interruptions. So I asked him and I said, but how have you allowed this to happen? Like it's not the end of the world for you to be reading a book. I can't believe that 30 years have gone by with you allowing this to happen. And I'll tell you exactly how it happened. Fast forward, back forward, rewind. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry, God, I have been like the whole day, like just running from event to event to event, and I actually haven't left this chair. So rewind 30 years, and the first time it happened, picture this, he's lying on a couch, he's reading his book, his wife comes up, darling, please can you help me with something? And he goes, yeah, with pleasure. Puts the book down and he helps. Second time, a new situation, and I'm not going to carry on going on with the story, you get the picture. And over time, he built up the expectation with his wife that she is allowed to interrupt him. She believes that she is allowed to interrupt him. And over time, this poor guy just gave up. He gave up trying to say, back off, no, give me half an hour, or I can't help you right now, whatever the case is. So this situation happens many times, and that is the kind of the key degeneration for us in establishing our boundaries. Now, there are other elements that influence it, as I said earlier. And very much it is the relationship dynamics of who you are trying to establish your boundary with. I have a roll of toilet paper on my desk. It's cold and my nose always runs and I can feel it running. But I can't talk properly if my nose is running. So where was I? Yes, the relationship dynamics. Now, if you're in a relationship that is not very healthy, right? You guys trigger each other often. Any kind of commentary sparks this big response and you guys are getting into arguments and fights. That will, again, influence how often you establish your boundaries, whether you believe you can establish your boundaries, whether it's safe to speak your truth, whether it's safe to say no. Because you don't want the drama, because over time you've learned, if I say X, Y, or Z, I'm going to get this kind of response. I don't want that response, so I'm just going to keep quiet and rather keep my needs, my truth, my value, my self-respect to myself. With clients, very often people are approaching their work. Why is my screen just gone blank? Very often people are approaching their work from a scarcity mindset. They don't want to upset their clients because they don't want them to leave. They don't want them to say, no, we will not hire you or do business with you. So we become overly permissive, overly polite with our clients because we are afraid. And on that little nugget, let's get into the core of why we really struggle to establish our boundaries. And it is, of course, fear. Fear of conflict, fear of the repercussions, fear of standing up for ourselves, of actually standing in our own power. So I would say that all of us have probably a mix of those, and they are influenced by our outside circumstances, the type of our relationships, how healed and whole and confident we are within ourselves. And that is the link, because boundaries mean that you know what your own worth is and you are prepared to protect your own worth. If over time, like the example that I just gave you with that client of mine, when over time you become a people pleaser and everyone in your life just expects you to be there for them 100% of the time. And you have even in your own being forgotten what it's like to say no. And when you do try and say no, it's so uncomfortable for you because you haven't been doing it for so many years that it's going to ignite a reaction within you. You may feel guilty, you may feel bad. On the other spectrum, you may start building up this huge amount of resentment. I don't blame you if you haven't been speaking your truth for 30 years. So there's all these little ingredients that affect boundaries. But let's get back to that core one. Self-worth equals boundaries. So boundaries really, in a nutshell, instruct others how you expect to be treated. Now, if you're not clear on how you expect to be treated, nobody else is going to be either. So if you are not clear in what you need for yourself, what your personal value is, and what you're prepared to do and not do, your life is not going to reflect that, because you haven't given clear instructions in the form of boundaries to the people in your life, whether they be your loved ones, your clients, your friends, your children, whatever it may be. And that's another dynamic, as a quick aside, is parents struggle a lot to establish boundaries, right? Because we don't want to damage our kids. We don't want, we want positivity and the whole helicopter parenting thing. But by instructing others how to treat us, if you haven't been doing that for a long time, you may be met with backlash. And that is somebody else's temper tantrum. That is somebody else being triggered. That is somebody else's reaction. But the key point here is that it is their reaction and their emotions and health and growth and everything else that they need to deal with. And if they don't choose to agree with the rules of engagement, boundaries that you set for yourself and your relationships and your life, they are welcome to either adapt or to go elsewhere. Let's come back to that original equation about fear, what stops us. And we are afraid of this. We are afraid of rejection. We are afraid of abandonment. We are afraid of the possible reaction from the people in our life. And so we make a choice unconsciously, consciously, or it erodes over time, like I've just described, where we choose to just, you know what, it's easier if I just say yes. It's easier if I just allow it this way. It's easier for me to let this go one more time, because if I don't, I'm going to have to stand up for myself. I'm going to have to change. And of course, on the other side of that fear equation is change. And that is the predominant thing that human beings fear, is change. So by standing up for ourselves and establishing our boundaries, it is going to require a change. It's going to require change in how we speak, how we communicate, how we relate. And because of that, it's going to change the dynamics of certain relationships. And that is fundamentally what we fear the most. And it's such a stupid human trait that we want something so badly, but we're just so afraid of it happening. You know, like, I want this new thing, but oh no, please don't change anything about my life, because, you know, that's terrifying. But yes, give it to me anyway. So we have to decide for ourselves, you know what? No one in the world, not even Mother Teresa, Gandhi, and whoever else, is going to hand us what we want. And that is a reality that we need to get very clear on. And the sooner we can do that, the sooner we can become powerful and move on and create what it is we want for our lives. So with that understanding, if no one is going to give us what we want, we have to go out and create it. And we create it by, well, there's many different elements to that, but it starts within us. And let's take this into a work situation. So let's say you are undercharging, or you allow clients to pay late, or you allow clients to cancel, or you allow X many revisions that haven't been quoted on, or whatever the case is, whatever the situation is for you in your work. If you allow that to continue, you are devaluing your skills, your expertise, your time, your actual value as a human being and what you are contributing. And you're allowing it. So if you want your work to change, your relationship with your clients to change, to attract better clients, to have a better work experience, what within you, not them, what within you needs to grow, to stand up, to get present, to be firm, and to speak your truth. And when that fear comes, so once you've made that decision for yourself, and you probably recognize it, and you hopefully, I'm sparking some self-awareness here, and you probably recognize it and go, yeah, you know, I do. I allow my clients to get away with murder because I'm too afraid of not having work, especially in this COVID environment. Everybody is holding on so tightly. Get out of that mindset. Yes, we've all had to disrupt our lives, our thinking, our habits, everything. And that's not going away, right? Because The call that I was just on now, we were chatting about what 2050 is going to look like. Really interesting speaker on before all of us. And the amount of changes that we have got in our immediate future is inconceivable. So it's good that we are learning how to be adaptable, how to be resilient, and how to flow with these changing environments, right? But it makes it even more important that we are in charge of it, right? So that when our external landscape changes, of which it's doing on a daily basis, lockdown, no lockdown, hybrid working, no hybrid working, no internet connection, no power, right? This is happening every single day. The only constant, the only consistent element is you. And this is the opportunity right now in 2021. This is the opportunity to solidify your desires, your worth, your confidence, and your focus for yourself, with a direction for yourself. Because as I said, no one's going to give it to you. You have to do it for yourself. Keeping an eye on the time. I've been talking the whole morning. I don't want to just get into a zone and not talk. So that's value. How do you value yourself, and what are you afraid of? Now, these are questions you need to ask yourself, because nobody else can answer them for you. So let's move into personal relationships. And it's quite funny. I find a lot of people are very confident, speaking their truth and sticking to their boundaries in one area of their life and completely fail in another. So perhaps you're really powerful and confident at work, but when it comes to your personal relationships, it's just difficult for you, right? Or vice versa. So within personal relationships, there is a definite feeling of wanting to keep the peace, needing to keep the peace. But if that is at the detriment of your own well-being, if you're going to sleep at night either with this, like a dictionary of words and sentences that you were supposed to have said today or said to somebody and you didn't, that's not good for you. And who is that serving? Is it serving you? And these are questions you have to get really honest with yourself about, because it doesn't change unless you change it. Is it scary? Yes, it is incredibly scary. So was it last week, 2 weeks ago, one of my recent lives, we were chatting about, I don't know if it was the betrayal one, but anyway, I was talking about dealing with toxic people in our life, inconsistent people, disrespectful people in our lives, and how when they have a brief moment of normalcy, right, so they're like doing their thing, their crazy drama-fueled behavior, personality, and then they're quite nice for a week or 2 weeks, and you think, it's done, right? That element comes into play with boundaries. Because we fear standing up for ourselves, because we fear being seen, standing in our true power and actually speaking our truth regardless of the consequences in a nice, respectful way, we kind of hope that things will change on their own. So in personal relationships, especially if you have got a long history of not standing up for yourself, not saying no, and you've now made this decision to change that, it is very difficult because we delay, we procrastinate that moment when we have to do this, okay? And so we revert to hope. Or maybe they'll change. Maybe they've heard me and maybe they'll start treating me better, or they'll start respecting me better, or they won't pay me late, or whatever the case is. The thing is, we have to work in reality. And I did a whole big thing on reality versus fantasy. And the reason I did that was because growing up, I had a major issue with fantasy and reality. Like, I hated reality. It sucked. I was just like, I looked at it and I was like, none of this makes sense to me. And that led me off into various different realms, one of which reading fantasy genre, which I still read to this day. But in my early 20s, I was like, geez, I need to reconnect to reality. Because I would find myself constantly, my entire existence was happening in my imagination, where I was powerful, I was happy, I was content, I knew exactly what to say, when to say, you know what I mean? You guys have all been through those fantasies. And then I realized that I had to let go of that, which was literally like letting go of a best friend. It was very traumatic for me. And then I had to connect into reality. Now, most of humanity hates reality because we like to fool ourselves. And when we can be fully present and work with reality, God, it's a game changer. It is such a game changer. So here is one point of reality that I'm going to say to you, and you need to absolutely accept. People do not change. Yes, they can grow. Yes, they can heal. That's wonderful. But the fundamental core of who they are doesn't change very much. So if you are battling in certain relationships where there are just no boundaries, and you know that they need to be established, don't put it off. Don't procrastinate, because they're not going to change. That period of hope where you're like, oh, maybe they've come to their senses. Maybe they've miraculously grown wings and turned into an angel. It's probably not going to happen. If it does, brilliant. That's so cool. That means your relationship up levels. Awesome. But if you wait for that event, which probably won't happen, you are literally throwing away your own time, which means you're not having boundaries with yourself. You're not valuing yourself. Remember, our boundaries are we teach others how we expect to be treated. And if you're not treating yourself with these vital qualities, right? What do we need? We need time. We need rest. We need joy. We need drama-free environments. And then all the individual things that we need. Like I need rock climbing. If I don't rock climb at least, about to say once a week, ideally 4 times a week, I go crazy. I know this about myself, which is why that is sacred time for me. It's non-negotiable. And as parents, I'm a parent, establishing those boundaries with our kids is so hard, because our instinct, our programming is to nurture and yes, my baby, I don't want to upset you, and etc. So, I spoke earlier about us not being deterred or responsible for other people's reactions. It's really hard in practice, right? Because you say no to your child and you are met with a temper tantrum, to meet all temper tantrums and the tears and the everything else and the manipulations. I'm never going to talk to you again, and you're ruining my life, and depending on the age of your child. Okay, you're entitled to feel the way you feel, and I am entitled to feel the way I feel. And I promise you now, when you start building the skill, it is a skill, of boundaries, really healthy, consistent boundaries, you're going to need at maximum a few days a week for people to adjust, because we do adjust so quickly. And the first time you say no, there probably will be a backlash, and you're going to be super uncomfortable, and you're going to go back and maybe feel shaky and feel guilty and feel like, oh my God. But it's so important, because if you don't, the way you feel right now is how you're going to feel for the rest of your life, and how your relationships are right now is how they're going to continue being. And everything that I do and everything that I stand for in this world, and the work that I do, and the tools that I hope to share with you, it is all about being in charge. Be in charge of you. Be in charge of your life experience, because there's so much richness of experience and joy to be had in this world. But if you aren't in a position to absorb it, you are throwing away the gift that is your life, the gift that is you. And we have to cut the fluff out. We have to, the fluff within our own mind, within our own emotions, our wounds, our past, Yes, we have to do that, but we've got to do it in our outside world as well. And there is fluff, and there is drama, and there is unnecessary things in the outside world. And that is where boundaries come in. And I'll give you an example of how I explain boundaries to my clients. So boundaries are rules. Okay. When people are unclear of the rules, there is anarchy and chaos ensues, right? We know this. We can see this within countries, within organizations. People need rules, right? We need to be governed, self-governed, ideally, but we need to be governed. So imagine a clothing store. You know that when you go into a clothing store, you walk through those little metal detectors. And if you try and steal an item of clothing that still has that little tag, that little metal tag, and as you walk through those metal detectors, the siren's going to go off, right? And you're going to be arrested for shoplifting. Those are the rules around the globe. I don't care which country you live in. Everybody knows it. And so everybody respects it, except for the people who genuinely want to shoplift. Now, within your own life, examine it. What rules for yourself have you got in place that everybody in your life knows about? And if those rules don't exist, what is the first rule that you're going to start with? Because when I said boundaries are a skill, it is a skill. It is like any other daily practice that we do. And we want to do it consistently and always, so that it literally gets inbuilt into our neural pathways. Our thoughts and emotions integrate with them, and the people in our life know to expect them, because that is what your rules are. So another friend of mine, and I'm actually going to do a shout out to you, Brad Shawkins, because we have not seen each other since last year lockdown. Amazing coach, he's fantastic. He once said to me, what are your non-negotiables? And I was like, ooh, I love that word, non-negotiables. So as a takeaway today, because if you want your life to be awesome, you need to put in the time and the effort. So as your takeaway for today, decide for yourself, what are your 3 non-negotiables? Hell or high water, whether it is your child, your lover, your boss, I don't care who it is. Those are your non-negotiables, and you will never negotiate on that rule, that boundary that you have for yourself. It could be related to your time, related to how you are treated. It could be anything. The most important thing it is for you. Create 3 non-negotiables and commit to enforcing them, and prepare yourself for the reality, right? Let's work with reality, that there is going to be a period where it's uncomfortable, because it is a new skill. You haven't been practicing it for however many years, or perhaps you've never practiced it, which means you are still learning how to. Your body, literally, all the stress that we keep in our physical body, your thoughts, your mind, same thing, and your emotions are learning how to be in a state of comfortable boundary establishment. So prepare yourself for the fact that it is going to be uncomfortable for a few days, right? Small amount of time until everybody's adjusted, including you. Prepare yourself for the fact that there may be backlash, right? That you may not get this really supportive response from the people in your life, because they don't like change either. They don't want you to change, and they don't want the dynamic to change, and they don't want to have to change their own response to you. So there will be a backlash, and it's okay. It's their stuff, and hopefully you will inspire them and encourage them to look at their own boundaries and to look at how they engage and accept with others. So yeah, I'm super hyped now. Sorry, as I said, I've been on this big call. I've just noticed the time. So I hope that anyone was joining me live today. I don't know. Sorry again for messing up the time and everything else. And a reminder, get onto the Miserable to Marvellous course. It is going to be absolutely life-changing. Everything that I'm speaking about here in absolute huge depth. I'll walk you through everything. There's actions, there's meditations, there's everything. And if you follow me on social media, I will post very shortly all the competitions, and you can win a course or a discount or whatever the case may be. So thank you so much, everyone. I think I'm probably talking to myself today. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I shall see you all next Wednesday. Bye.